Out here, the mountains don't care how tough you think you are. The rivers don't slow down just because you're tired. And the wilderness, well, it has a way of humbling even the best of us. I'm Fraser Rivers, and this is where the real stories happen. Stories of grit, determination, and the kind of moments that stay with you long after the hunt is over. A trophy hunt on the British Columbia coast. Where can we go to hunt big black bears? My friend and fellow hunter Jake Marshall asked. There are plenty of places with big black bears, I replied. Jake nodded but pressed further. Okay, but where can we go for something different, something unique? How about we fly to Seattle, take a float plane to Nanaimo, British Columbia, board a 60-foot yacht, and spend 5 days hunting black bears along the coastline, I suggested. Jake wasn't finished. What about the food? He asked. For most people, this might seem like a minor detail, but for a former NHL and football player like Jake, it was a top priority. Steaks, fresh crab, and Pacific salmon, I assured him. Jake's response was short and decisive. Let's go. Jake and I were joined by Ryan Carter and Tom Reynolds. Ryan and Jake had played for the Kansas City Chiefs for years, while Tom, a close friend of Ryan's, wanted to be part of the adventure rather than just hear about it afterward. The journey begins. We left Kansas City in late May, flying to Seattle for an overnight stay before heading to Vancouver Island. After a quick check of our passports and rifles by Canadian Customs, we took a short flight to Blind Bay, British Columbia. The area serves as a refueling dock and a gathering place for hunters booked with Lucas Bennett's outfitting service, North Coast Safari. Lucas and his son, Daniel, operate game management units along the British Columbia coastline, known for producing exceptional trophy animals, including grizzlies and black bears of Boone and Crockett caliber. Upon arrival, we met Lucas, Daniel, and Sam, our onboard chef. After grabbing supplies at the general store, we loaded our gear onto the yacht and headed north to the hunting unit. While Lucas manned the helm, Daniel showed us to our quarters. Jake and Ryan shared the aft room, spacious enough for 2 former linemen, complete with a full bathroom. Tom and I took the bow room, outfitted with bunk beds. After a quick lunch of salmon spread sandwiches, we set out in 18-foot Boston whaler boats, which would serve as our primary transportation during the hunt. The method was similar to a spot and stalk hunt, except we covered terrain by boat instead of on foot. The tides dictated the hunt. When the tide receded, bears emerged along the shoreline to forage for crabs and shellfish. Each outing lasted 4 to 5 hours, and it was common to see anywhere from 3 to 10 black bears, along with the occasional grizzly. The hunt begins. One of my most vivid memories from this trip was encountering a 9-foot-plus grizzly standing on its hind legs in the shoulder-high grass. We were less than 50 yards away when she made it clear whose shoreline we were on. Only after backing away did we realize she had a cub nearby. As evening fell, we made our way back to the yacht. Ryan and I had gone one direction, while Jake and Tom had taken another. Just as we approached, we received a call from Tom. He had just harvested a massive black bear a mile away from the boat. The bear was a thick-bodied bruiser, measuring just over 6 feet 6 inches. What a way to start. One day, one bear. Daniel spent the next hour preparing the trophy hide while we cleaned up and sat down for one of Sam's gourmet meals. Over the next 4 days, we would feast on baked salmon, steak, pasta, and fresh crab. Day 2. A special find. The next morning, we were pumped. Having seen firsthand the quality of the bears in the area, we knew we were in for an exciting hunt. Cool temperatures and sunshine made for a perfect day. By noon, Ryan and I had spotted 3 bears, one of which was a possible shooter. As we glassed the bear from a distance, we received an unexpected radio call, not from the other hunting boat, but from the yacht. "Lucas, this is Sam. There's a large black bear on the shoreline straight off the bow of the boat." Lucas didn't hesitate. He raised his binoculars, then quickly put them down, fired up the motor, and took off. Ryan and I exchanged looks. If Lucas left another bear behind for this one, we knew it had to be something special. When we arrived at the yacht, we saw Jake and Tom glassing the bear from the bow. Lucas maneuvered our boat into position on the shoreline, about 200 yards from where the bear was flipping rocks in search of food. Ryan and Lucas stalked to within 100 yards, using a boulder as cover. A former NFL linebacker, Ryan had to contort his large frame into position. But when Lucas confirmed the bear's size, Ryan steadied his .375 H&H, took aim and fired. The bear dropped on the spot. Upon closer inspection, we noticed unique characteristics defining its age. Bald patches from old age rather than rubbing, and worn teeth. Its skull measured over 19 inches, and the hide squared an even 7 feet. Daniel later dubbed the bear Grandpa Bear, as he had never skinned one that old. 2 days, 2 bears. Day 3, my turn. Early that morning, we set out again. Jake took one boat while I took another with my guide Emily. Not long into the morning, we spotted what at first appeared to be a light-coloured black bear. As we moved in for a closer look, we quickly realised our mistake. A towering 9-foot grizzly rose on its hind legs to get a better look at us. After watching the grizzly for a few moments, we moved on, eventually spotting 6 black bears and 3 more grizzlies. Then we noticed a black dot along the shoreline. As we moved into Glass, I could tell from Lucas's face that this was a good one. We beached the boat and stalked up the coast. The bear had moved into a green pocket behind a small stream, and from our vantage point on a rise, he was a mere 25 meters away. I looked at Lucas for confirmation, and he gave me the nod. Raising my Browning .338, I fired. The bear expired in the stream, measuring a perfect 7 feet with a full skull of 18.5 inches. 3 days, 3 bears. The atmosphere on the boat was jubilant. 3 hunters had now filled their tags with trophy animals. Only Jake remained. Day 4. The final trophy. The weather turned typical for the British Columbia coast, overcast with steady rain. I decided to join Jake rather than relax in the warmth of the yacht. The bears seemed unimpressed by the rain as well, and while we spotted 2 decent ones, we weren't here for decent bears. We returned to dry off before heading back out in the afternoon. Within an hour, we spotted a promising bear. Jake set up for the shot, fired, and watched as the bear disappeared into the dense timber. We waited 20 minutes before following the trail. Hunting in coastal British Columbia's rainforest is no easy feat. The thick vegetation makes tracking a challenge. After 45 minutes, we finally found Jake's bear lying just 30 yards from where he had shot it. His hide squared out at 6 feet 7 inches with a skull just shy of 18 inches. 4 hunters, 4 days, 4 trophy bears. An unforgettable adventure on the coast of British Columbia. Now would be a great time for a refreshment as we pause between stories. The Edge of the Wild, a hunt on the Alaska Peninsula. Private access to remote hunting grounds on the far reaches of the Alaska Peninsula offers not just massive brown bears, but an experience that tests the nerves. The normally quiet Alaskan night air was abruptly interrupted as Sam bolted upright from his sleeping pad on the floor of our 8x8 tent. "What the hell was that?" he asked urgently. From just 6 feet away, I stirred groggily. "What? I didn't hear anything." Sam mumbled some nonsense about his crazy dreams, fell back onto his bed, and within seconds was snoring again. Another nightmare. There's something uniquely unsettling about a seasoned brown bear hunting guide having nightmares, especially when you know the monsters he dreams about really exist just outside the tent walls. His jokes about the flimsy nylon being an effective bear shield provided a false sense of security, but we both knew the reality of what prowled beyond. We had ended the 8th evening of our Alaskan Peninsula coastal bear hunt by taking down a 9-foot bear in the alders, less than 500 yards from camp. He wasn't the first or even the biggest bear we had seen, but for some reason, this one lingered in our minds as we struggled against common sense to sleep. As the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, Sam spoke again, his voice calm but serious. "You awake?" "Yeah," I admitted. "Haven't really been sleeping." "I've guided for interior grizzlies for a while now," he said, "but I got to admit, this place is different. Humboldt, I mean. There are more huge bears here than anywhere I've ever been. It's just a little crazy to be sleeping in a tent out here." I agreed, but neither of us wanted to leave. Setting aside the ever-present danger of the darkness and the nerve-wracking treks through dense cover full of bear sign, this was a glorious place. Spending a month hunting the Alaskan wilderness every fall for 4 consecutive years had given me perspective. I had seen incredible scenery, taken some incredible game, and had my share of close encounters with brown bears, but I had never seen anything like this place. Mike Calloway, a seasoned Alaskan bush pilot and an old friend of mine, held exclusive hunting rights to 140,000 acres of tribal land. It stretched from Ivanhoe Bay on the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, southwestward, encompassing 23 miles of shoreline, 5 river drainages, and the highest brown bear density I had ever encountered. By the 8th day of my hunt, I had counted over 60 different bears. Some hunters in camp had reported seeing up to 30 bears in a single day. By the end of my first week, I had passed up easy shots on multiple bears that squared around 8.5 feet. It would have been a shame to take one that small, knowing this area held multiple bears well over 10 feet. A ghost in the swamp. After thawing our frozen hunting clothes from another day of standing in 35-degree rain, I peeked out of the tent at first light. Across the mile-wide swamp where we camped, I saw a single dark mass moving through the tall grass. I quickly got Sam's attention. We put a spotting scope on it, an enormous bear even from 600 yards away. Confident it squared over 10 feet, we grabbed our rifles and ran into a crouching position, setting an intercept course through the wet tundra. The bear was oblivious to our presence. At 300 yards, we were stuck. We had run out of 12-foot swamp grass and now faced an open stretch of ground with only waist-high brush. I eased up my shooting sticks, settled my rifle, and clicked off the safety. "I'm gonna shoot," I whispered. "Wait," Sam urged. "He doesn't know we're here. We've got the wind. We can get closer." I hesitated. I muttered something about not getting too greedy, but before I could set my rifle back down, the bear suddenly veered left. Without any obvious reason, he abandoned the trail he had followed for nearly 2 miles and vanished into the alder-choked creek bottom, never offering a shot. We both agreed we had made the right decision to hold fire. A bear of that size, even with a well-placed shot, could travel a great distance before dying. A follow-up shot was a must on these massive animals, and firing on a running bear in thick terrain at 300 yards would have been a dicey, unethical gamble. A new approach. Frustrated but resolute, I asked Mike to drop me into another, previously unhunted drainage several miles down the coast. He agreed, and as his Super Cub bumped down the beach and lifted over the mountains, I found myself once again standing alone in untamed wilderness. Luke, my new guide, and I marveled at the sheer number of bear and wolf tracks covering the narrow strip of beach where we had landed. We set up camp on a vast carpet of wild cranberries and blueberries before hiking up a slope to a vantage point overlooking the river and swamps below. By the end of the first day, we had seen several sows with cubs and one enormous lone bear, too distant to chase in the miserable torrential rain. That night in camp, we agreed, if the big bear was in the open again at first light, we'd go after him, into the depths. At dawn, we were back at our 1,000-foot perch, scanning the swamp. As my binoculars reached the distant flat where the giant had lounged the day before, my heart dropped. He was there. Same spot. We packed light and began the long approach. The first mile-wide swamp was manageable, with game trails guiding us. The second was a nightmare. The grass grew taller, the water deeper. The muck bottom clutched our boots as we stumbled blindly. At one point, I stepped into a hidden hole, plunging waist-deep into the freezing water. Cursing under my breath, I wiped down my rifle and scope, then pushed forward. As with every massive bear we had pursued, this one offered no easy approach. He stood feeding in the wide open, a 500-yard buffer of low vegetation around him. Crawling through the swamp, we managed to get within 300 yards, but he knew we were there. Every time I set up for a shot, he'd move another 300 yards, just out of range. We pursued him across a mile of swamp until he finally disappeared into the thick brush, never offering a clean shot. The hunt was enough. That was my last day in camp. I went home without a bear, but I had no regrets. I had the opportunity to take multiple bears, but for me, the true reward wasn't in the kill. It was in the hunt. And on that front, I got far more than my money's worth. Thanks for being a part of the adventure with me, Fraser Rivers. Stay tuned for more thrilling hunting stories next time.